Masechet Hagigah Daf Chaf Vav. We'll study Amud Aleph today, and then tomorrow, since the last daf is very short, we'll do Amud Bet and the very end. So Mishnah teaches Min hamodi'in v'lifnim ne'emanin al kele cheres. So here's the thing: in Jerusalem, as we're about to see, they did not have kilns to make pottery because of the smoke would blacken the walls and bother people. So they had to be made outside. And if you're bringing a korban, you need a lot of pottery because you keep going through them and become tameh very easily. And so therefore the rabbi said, if we say that people can only buy pottery from chaverim, there won't be enough pottery to go around, and you can't make a gezerah on the public that they can't follow. Therefore they made a leniency and said, you're allowed to buy pottery from Amei Haaretz, and you can trust that you can use it for Kodesh. Okay. However, they did put a limitation on that and said only if you buy it within a radius of a circle where Jerusalem is the center of the circle, and the city of Modi'in, which you can go there now, that's where the Chashmonaim came from, is the edge. So if you're within this within Modi'in, then that's fine, or anywhere around it. So that would include Jericho, even within the Dead Sea. All that they're close enough to Jerusalem, and because of that, the people making the earthenware, they know people are going to be buying my earthenware to use for kodashim. I better make sure that they don't become tameh, and therefore we can trust them. It's necessary. But if you go and buy it outside, all the way out in Haifa, over there, the Meharis are not being careful because people aren't buying it for kodashim there. Ketzad. הקדר שהוא מוכר לקדרות נכנס לפנים מן המודיעים, הוא הקדר והן הקדרות והן הלוחין נאמן, יעשה אינו נאמן. And the point of this is to show that all that matters is where the transaction happens. So even if the kadar himself is from outside Modi'in, and the buyer and all that, and they all come in and they pass this border, so the kadar that comes in within, so the kadar, the pottery maker, and the pots themselves, and the buyer, as long as they're in, they're fine. If those very same people all travel out of the border, then they are no longer trusted. So all that matters is where the transaction happens. You have to make sure it's within. All right, that's the Mishnah. The Gemara is going to deal with what about right on the border. So let's say the city of Modi'in itself, it's not a dot, it's a big dot, and it covers the border. So let's consider that whole dot to be like a kind of no man's land. What about that? The Gemara will ask, see from the first line, it says, from Modi'in and within is okay. That sounds like the Modi'in itself is within. But then it says from Modi'in and outside is no good. That sounds like that no man's land on the border is like outside. So that the middle actual line, or this actual city, is going to be good sometimes, but not always. So let's see that borderline case, literally borderline case. Tana, Modi'in, pa'amim kilifnim, pa'amim kilachutz. Sometimes it's considered like inside the boundary, sometimes like outside the boundary. How so? Kesad, kadar yotzeh v'chaver nichnas kilifnim. If the people are traveling and the kadar, the pottery maker, is leaving, he's on his way out, he's within the city, let's say the city of Modi'in, or anywhere on the border, and so he's within, but he's going out. Whereas the buyer is outside, but he's coming in. So, and now they meet in the middle. They meet right within the city. In that case, we consider the city to be within, because if he waits any longer, the kadar is leaving, and then he won't get a chance to buy anything. So he's coming in. So, he's doing the right thing. He's going the right way. In that case, we are lenient and allow him to buy. That's kadar yotzeh v'chaver nichnas. Then they are considered as if they're inside. However, sheneh nichnasim or shenehem yotzim kelachutz. If both of them are entering in, right? They were totally outside. They were in Haifa. They come, they're in Modi'in, and they are not staying in Modi'in. They're continuing to travel towards Jerusalem. In that case, they should not do the transaction in Jerusalem, because why do it there? Why not just wait till you're further in, right? So you're both walking on the highway in the same way. So don't stop in Modi'in, keep going till you're totally within the boundary, and then do it. And so in that case, Modi'in itself is considered like outside. So too, if they are both leaving, they're both on their way out. They were both in Jerusalem and they went through Modi'in and they're now Modi'in and leaving on the way out. We say no good, because why'd you wait all this time? You were traveling together. Why'd you wait till you got to the borderline? You should have bought it earlier. And therefore, to prevent people from doing that, they say, no, in that case, also, Modi'in itself, the borderline, will be not good, be considered like it's outside, so that you should have bought from inside. Okay, there's only one case missing here, which is the opposite case. If the Kadad is entering and the Chaved is leaving, the Kadad, the pottery maker is coming in, the Chaved is leaving. It doesn't discuss that case. You shouldn't discuss it. It seems that that case would not be good, because if the Chaved is leaving, we say, why are you leaving before you're buying it? You should have went and bought it before. And so that in case also will be a case of a penalty. All right. And we're going to back this up. Amad Abaye, Afanan Name Tanena. We can learn this from our Mishnah itself. Our Mishnah, remember that those two first clauses that are contradictory. It says, "Hakadash shemachat hakedorot v'nichnas lifnim min hamodim, tamad lifnim min hamodim, hamodim gufa la meheman." From the first line, it sounds like the pottery maker who's selling his kedorot and he comes within modi'in, right, within the perimeter, then it's okay. Sounds like only because he's within the perimeter. But if he's on the perimeter, meaning that city itself would be no good. But look at the Sefer. The next line says, "Ema Sefer yatsa eno ne'eman." If he leaves the city and goes outside the perimeter, then he's no good. Well, it sounds like only when he leaves the city outside, then he's no good. But hamodin gufa ne'eman, but that city itself is okay. So these two clauses overlap. So what do we do? Rather, the two clauses are talking about, in fact, two different cases. If the pottery maker is leaving and the chaved who wants to buy is coming in, then we allow leniency. Otherwise, they'll miss each other. But in all other cases, we say no. The city itself, the actual borderline, is considered outside, and you got to come further in towards Jerusalem, and that is the conclusion. Tana. Okay, this rule, this leniency we just mentioned, we're going to see a couple of limitations on it. And the first one is that we are believed only regarding believed regarding small vessels, small earthenware vessels, right? The kinds that individuals would use, and not the kind of the big storage vessels, because most people don't need those big storage vessels. So the rabbis don't have to be lenient regarding those. All right. So now, how small is considered small? If it can be carried with one hand, then that's small, and that's what the rabbis are lenient about. And anywhere within that border, you can buy these and use them for kodashim. But Rabbi Yochanan is a little bit more lenient. It says even if you can't hold it with one hand, as long as it's not a really big one, that's fine. That's also considered small. All right, that's limitation one. Second, and we only trust the Nameh Haaretz to sell us these small earthenware vessels when they are empty, not if there's food in it. See, if there's food, we don't trust Nameh Haaretz regarding food. If it's Kodesh food, and he says, "Oh, it's Kodesh food," then we do agree that you can trust the Nameh Haaretz, because even Nameh Haaretz are scared of Kodesh. But if it's full of regular food, chulin, liquid in the pot, then we cannot buy it. Because we trust you regarding the pot, but not regarding the liquid. So only if it's empty. But Rabbi Yochanan again is more lenient. Rabbi Yochanan amar afilu meleim v'afilu apikarsuto letocho. Even if this jug is full of regular oil, or even if there's clothing in it. Usually, if you have clothing of Nameh Haaretz, you have to assume that a zav sat on it and it's tameh. Tameh moshav, tameh midras. However, Rabbi Yochanan says, no, we don't care about that. We still consider the jug to be tahor, even if there's something tameh in it when you buy it. Very interesting. Now, Rava explains, Rabbi Yochanan is not saying that drink is actually tahor, we don't trust the drink of a chulin, drink of an ama'aretz. So the drink itself is tameh, but the pot is tahor. And now, if you feel like you're wondering what's going on, how could this possibly be? If you're feeling astonished, then you're right to feel astonished, because the next line says, "Va'al titma," don't be astonished. Shahreh lagin male mashkin, lagin temein tumat shiva, mashkin tehorin. Right? You might be astonished because how could it be that I'm buying something? The jug you're telling me is okay, but the drink is not okay. But I'm buying both together. So if I trust him on one, I should trust him on other. If I don't trust him on one, don't trust him regarding the other. He says, no, don't say that, because back on Daf Kaf Bet, we actually had a case where the bowl and the inside don't match in their status. Over there, we had a pitcher that was made out of metal that was full of a drink, and we said that the pitcher is tameh and the drink is tahor. That was the case where there was a corpse on the first floor and an earthenware vessel, and then this this jug on the second floor, and that was Bet Shammai, and he said the drink is okay. Because the drink anyway is only a good drink for amaretz. We're not going to drink it anyway. The metal pitcher is no good because a chaver would borrow the metal pitcher and he might think, oh, I can borrow it and use it. No. So we have to say it's tameh so that the chaver will know to dip it. Okay, these are all derabanan things that it's not for sure that we know that this liquid is tameh or this pitcher is tameh. It's derabanan, but so because these are derabanan gezerot, so sometimes they're not even, and so you can have such a case where we do apply the gezerah on one item but not the other, even though they're actually touching each other. All right, that was very interesting. Next Mishnah. הגבאים שנכנסו לתוך הבית וכן הגנבים שהחזירו את הכלים נאמנים לומר לא נגענו. Fantastic case. You have tax collectors. In the olden days, not like the IRS that actually work, are government workers. But in those days, the government would farm out the tax collection to the highest bidder. So any thugs would come and say, oh, we'll do a good job and collect taxes for you, the government. And the problem is that these gabain, they're actually kind of similar to thieves because, if they extracted a little extra from the citizens, then they get to keep the rest. So sometimes you had a Jewish tax collector that's working for a non-Jewish government. So if this Jewish tax collector comes into your house because maybe you didn't pay and they want to go and seize your property, and while they're in there, we assume they're ameharetz. While they're in there, they're looking through, rummaging through your drawers, opening things, touching things, causing tum'ah. So then if anything they touch, we have to assume is tameh. Similarly, a thief breaks into your house and returns the item. After he steals it, he returns, I'm sorry, I made teshuvah, I return your item. Both of these groups are believed to say, lo naga'nu, we didn't touch it, right? We didn't touch this item over here, and it's okay. So this is really interesting. Although they're thieves and thugs, but they're pious when it comes to tumah. And they're believed to say that if a certain object in the house they didn't touch, then we believe that to say that they didn't touch them. All right. Now this is a separate clause. Ubirushalayim nemanin al hakodesh, ubishat haregel af al hateruma. In Jerusalem, amei haaretz are credible regarding sacrificial food throughout the year because they're in Jerusalem and there's always people bringing sacrifices. So then this Jerusalem has a special status. It's kind of like, rings. Jerusalem is always believed within Modi'in. They're believed all year round regarding small pots, and outside, no. And now during the holiday, right, when everyone's coming for the Chag, for Yom Tov, then we trust amei haaretz even regarding teruma, right? So as we said, all year round, regarding Kodesh, the amei haaretz will be careful, at least in Jerusalem. And on the holiday, everyone comes in from wherever they are and they make themselves pure because they're going to be involved and they want to give their teruma and they want to eat their kodashim. So on the holiday itself, they are pure for Kodesh and even for teruma. Okay, so now regarding back to the first case, Urminhu, we have a challenge from another Mishnah in Masechet Tehorot that says, Hagaba'in shenichnesu letoch habayit, habayit kulo tameh. If these Jewish tax collectors who are amei haaretz come into your house to seize some property, everything in the house you have to assume is tameh because they probably went and rummaged through everything to find some valuables. So how are we going to resolve our Mishnah and Mishnah and Teharot? La kashya, ha de'ika goy behadaihu, ha deleka goy behadaihu. One is if the non-Jewish official is with them, and other sources where the non-Jewish official is not with them. Now, which one's which is a machloket between Rashi and Rambam. Rashi assumes that the non-Jewish official being with them makes it worse. If the non-Jewish official is there, he's going to be like, oh, don't stop there, look through this, look through that. Then the non-Jewish official is going to be meaner than the Jewish tax collector. However, Rambam assumes the opposite, that the Jewish tax collector, if he's alone, then he's going to go look through everything because he can keep more for himself. If the government official is there with him, then he will make sure that the tax collector only takes as much as he's supposed to and follows the protocol and doesn't rummage through the entire house. So let's try with the Rambam. According to that, that would mean that in Taharot, where it says the whole house is tameh, that's when the Jewish tax collector was by himself. And our Mishnah that says he's believed to say, I touched this, but I didn't touch that. That is talking about when there's the government official who's keeping an eye on him, that he's not going to overstep his boundaries. Okay, good. Ditnan, and here's a proof. Im yesh goy imahen ne'emanin lomar lo nichnasnu, aval en ne'emanim lomar nichnasnu, aval lo naganu. If there is a government, non-Jewish government official with him, then he is believed to say, I didn't go in. I didn't go into this house at all. I didn't go into this room at all. And so the Jewish, that's believed because the non-Jewish official is with him, and so that he will be limited in what he does. But once they did actually go into a certain area, then they're not believed to say, yeah, we went in, but we didn't touch. No, once they went in, you have to assume that they did, in fact, touch what was in there. Okay. Now we're asking, what exactly is the difference if the non-Jewish official is with him or not? So there's two opinions. One says because the fear of the non-Jewish officials is upon him, so he's going to therefore behave and not overstep and not touch everything in every room. And the other says, no, the Jewish tax collector doesn't care about the official himself. The official is just a low-level official, but he is afraid of the government because the official may go back to the office in the actual government, and they will say, "Oh, why'd you do that?" And then give him, fire him or punish him. Okay, what's the difference? What's my benai? What's the difference if he's afraid of this official itself or only afraid of the official reporting to someone else? If this official himself is not such an important guy and doesn't have senior authority, then he'll say, this guy doesn't know what he's doing anyway. I'm not afraid of him. And then the Jewish tax collector may go and cause more tum'ah. If he's not afraid of him, but if he is afraid of him, then there wouldn't be a difference between these two opinions. Okay, you can see how Rashi would interpret it the opposite way. If the non-Jewish tax collector is with him, then he would say, "Oh, you better go, Jewish tax collector, and go and rummage through everything because maybe you didn't find something." Whereas if he's by himself or he doesn't care about this official, then the Jewish tax collector will be nicer. Okay, it's very interesting that these are completely opposite ways of reading the same situation. All right, the note here says that Rambam must have a different text, but I checked, the manuscripts are all the same. I think it's the same text, but two different assumptions about how the government works versus these, the thief type of tax collectors. All right, now to the thief himself. What mean who? Right? The thief that returns the item and he says, it's pure, we can believe him. What mean who? Hold on, we have another Mishnah in Taharot that says that when thieves enter the house, any place that he walked is tameh. Now, if you didn't go into a room, sometimes the thieves don't go into every room. They're afraid maybe the homeowner is in this room, or they only go to a room where the valuables are likely to be. And so a room that he didn't go into, everything's tahor. But any room that he did go into, we have to assume everything is tameh. And that contradicts our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says if he's a type of thief that returns an item, and as he's returning, he says, oh, by the way, I didn't touch that vase over there, then we believe him, even though he went into the room. So which one is it? Amar Pinchas Mishmed Rav Keshasu Teshuvah. Oh, because our Mishnah is talking about when he made Teshuvah. That's why he's believed. If he's honest enough to return the stolen item, then he's believed also to say, listen, I touched this thing, but I didn't touch that thing. Whereas if he's not the type that makes teshuvah, if he doesn't make teshuvah, then he's not trustworthy, he's not honest for money, and he's not going to be honest for anything else. And then we have to assume that anything in any room that he went into is tameh. And in fact, the Mishnah is precise because it says only if he returned what he stole. That's the only case in which we would believe him. Next clause would be Yerushalayim ne'emanin ala kodesh. In Jerusalem, all year round, we trust the Me'aris regarding sacrificial food. Tana ne'emanin al kelei cheres kasin la kodesh. And in Jerusalem, Baraita is adding, not only do we trust him regarding food, in Jerusalem, we trust a Me'aris regarding big pots, right? We said before that small pots, we trust them in the entire radius until Modi'in. In Jerusalem itself, sometimes there are some people that need big pots. The temple treasury, right? Certain wealthy people will have to store a lot of kodesh, and so they do need big pots. They're trusted in Jerusalem. V'kol kach lama, and now we're wondering, why are the rabbis actually so lenient to say, yeah, you can trust Ameh Aretz pots in Jerusalem, and small pots you can even trust until Modi'in? And the answer is she'en osin kivshonot b'Yerushalayim, because we do not have kilns in Jerusalem, so that the smoke doesn't destroy the air quality and soot get all over the nice white Jerusalem stone. And because of that, it's hard to get pots, and earthenware is easily becomes tameh. You have to keep breaking it and buying new ones, and that's why the rabbis are lenient, because they know that it's hard to get, and if they don't allow these leniencies, then people won't be able to prepare and cook and store their kodashim. Bishat haregel af al hateruma. During the holiday season itself, the Me'aretz are trusted even regarding teruma. This is like today, there's some people, you might know them, that during the rest of the year, they're not so careful regarding kashrut. They eat out, they eat this and that. But when it comes to Pesach, all of a sudden they're super machmir, they're more machmir than the chief rabbis, right? And so too back then, even during the rest of the year, they weren't so careful regarding Tumah and Tahara. When it came time for the holiday, they were super machmir, and you can trust them for Kodesh and for Tirumah. What's the source for this? Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Amar Kera, V'yasef kol ish Yisrael el ha'ir ki ish echad chaverim. HaKatuv asan kulan chaverim. It's pasuk in Shoftim that says that all of Israel gathered to the city like one person, chaverim. Now it means friends, but the rabbis are taking here to mean like a chaver, the official person who commits himself to the highest level of purity. So when Bnei Israel gathers into the city, meaning into Jerusalem, for the holiday, then we treat everybody like chaverim, and that therefore they are trusted. The context of the very nice idea. However, the context of Shoftim is the story of Pelegesh B'Giv'ah. It's talking about when all the tribes ganged up against the city of Giv'ah, who did a terrible act to take revenge and war, and come to war and destroy the city. So the context isn't so peaceful and happy, but still has the word chaverim, so that's what we're focusing on, to make a play on words of chaverim and those who join that chabura. Talmud Yerushalmi has a different pasuk, says Yerushalayim ke'ir chubera yachdav, a city that's all together, and also has the word chaver there, and that's actually a much nicer context. But either way, the point is, whenever Bnei Israel come together, They want to all be at the same level. And therefore, we make this special dispensation on the holiday because we want everyone to come and enjoy the holiday together. And if we're going to exclude most people, because we're going to assume that everything they have is tameh, then it's not going to be such a joyous holiday with only 3% of the population. And so therefore, the rabbis go out of their way to trust the people, and the people also really were more careful during the holiday than the rest of the year. All right, and next Mishnah says, "Hapotech et chavito v'matchil beisato al gav haregel." Rabbi Yehuda omer yigmor, Chachamim omerim lo yigmor. This is a consequence of the previous Mishnah. Because everyone is trusted to be tahor, therefore the people who are selling barrels of wine or selling dough during the holiday season, during the holiday itself, and so let's say they start selling a piece of dough, or they open up a barrel of wine and they start selling it. But let's say they didn't finish the entire thing. And so the last day of the holiday came and the holiday's finished, and he still has half a barrel of wine left to sell. And now what's he going to do? On the holiday, it's no problem, because he can, even though it's Amei Haaretz came and touched it and all that, on the holiday, we trust Amei Haaretz. But now the holiday's over. Now what? Right? What did we say? That, Amei Haaretz, we're touching it all the past few days. Does it now revert to being tameh and he can't sell it anymore? Or do we say that he can sell it? After all, we don't want the guy to, not open a new barrel because he might not finish it, right? We want him to open it. And so do we say, because on the holiday they were trusted, so too, even though the holiday is over, we still continue and let him finish the barrel. So that's a machloket of Yehuda omer yigmor. Yehuda says, if you open the barrel already on the holiday, then we continue the trustworthiness status, and you can continue selling it until you finish that barrel. Hachamim omerim lo yigmor. Hachamim say, sorry, cutoff point. The holiday is over, and Amei Haaretz are no longer trusted, and now this barrel you cannot finish selling it. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Yetev Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha. Akilad Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha. So these two rabbis, Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha, were sitting on the courtyard of the ladder of Rabbi Yitzchak Napacha, sitting in the courtyard. Patach ve'amar, Mahu shenichena l'regel acher. And so one of them asked an interesting question. What about if it would really apply to Chachamim, right? Chachamim say you have half a barrel of wine, you had said you can't sell it. Okay, so you can't sell it right then, but can you keep it, close it up again, and keep it till the next holiday? On the next holiday, then we reinstate the rule that Amei Haaretz are trusted. And so in between they're not trusted, but now they're trusted. Can I sell it again on the next holiday? That's the question, right? Or do you say, no, well, now that Amei Haaretz are not trusted anymore after the holiday, now retroactively, any Amei Haaretz who came and touched it, everybody's taking a sampling and dipping their fingers in it. And now that we don't trust them, retroactively becomes tameh, and therefore it's tameh forever, even on the next holiday. Okay, really good question. Amar le'idach, the other sage, whoever it was, says, Yada kol meshamshin ba va'at amart yanichena l'regel acher. Oh, everybody's hands are touching it, and you say, leave it over to the next holiday. That's it. It's already tameh, just from the Amei Haaretz who throughout the holiday were touching it on that first holiday. So we ignore it on the holiday itself. But once the holiday is done, now it becomes tameh for good. So the other sage responded, wait, this whole time on the holiday, everybody was touching it, but it was okay, because on the holiday, we assume that everybody's tahor. So fine, the holiday finished, but it should still retain the status as tahor. So close it up now so no one else touches it. Open it on next holiday, and then it should be good. All right. Amar le hachi hashta bishlam hadaidana tumat Amei Haaretz peregel rachamana tihara elashta temeahi. No, it's not the same. Until now, the tum'ah of Amei Haaretz rachamana, Hashem makes it tahor. It's as if on the holiday, really the Amei Haaretz are tameh. But we kind of overlook it. And Rachamana says you can treat them like tahor. But once the holiday ends, then reality sets in again. And their tum'ah that was actually there all along comes into play, and it becomes tameh. So it's a really interesting question, is it that we consider them actually tahor, or are they actually tahor, or they're really tameh, but for the purposes of the joy of the holiday, we overlook it and we're lenient, but that's it. The leniency we only applies on the holiday. All right, so this is interesting theoretical question of how to understand it with a practical consequence of can you keep it till next year or not. So that discussion they don't answer it in that discussion. However, they do say maybe it's a machloket tanaim because we have two baraitot that happen to address this, and they're opposite baraitot. The Tane Chada Yanichen Leregel Acher. One baraita says, leave it till the next holiday. Betanya idach lo yanichena leregel acher. Other baraita says, don't leave it to the next holiday. My love, tanaehi. So there you go. That's the answer to our question: is that it's a machloket already from the time of the Tanaim, and so both of these possibilities have a valid proof. All right. We say la, no, these two baraitot we're not talking about that matter of this question. Rather, those two baraitot actually line up with the two opinions in our Mishnah. We'll see one way, and then we're going to switch it around. The one, the baraita that says yanichena, leave it over to another holiday, that would be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says you can continue selling it after the holiday. So either way, sell it after the holiday, wait till the next holiday. It's considered totally tahor, and whoever touched it during the holiday, they are tahor, and it's okay. And the opinion that says do not leave it over to the next holiday, that would make sense with Rabbanan, who say once the holiday is over, all that touching during the holiday actually now retroactively makes it tameh, so you cannot sell it ever again, not now and not on the next holiday. All right, so we line up this machloket with the machloket in the Mishnah, but then we say no. V'tizbera this can't be. The Biuda in the Mishnah says you can finish it. That means right away, right after the holiday, you finish selling it. If you finish selling it right away, there's no need to wait till the next regel comes. So that can't be the Biuda. Rather, we're going to switch the attributions of these two anonymous baraitot and say the one that says don't leave it till the next holiday, that's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda would say you could leave it to the next holiday, but you don't even have to leave it to the next holiday because you can sell it right away. So sell it right away and don't bother leaving it to the next holiday. And the one who says do leave it to the next holiday, that is actually Rabbanan. Because Rabbanan say you cannot sell it right after this holiday finishes. So now what are you going to do with it? Oh, close it up and seal it. It's okay. You can save it till the next holiday. And so actually we do have an answer at the end once we have this attribution that Rabbanan, both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan would permit to sell on next holiday. The only question is, can you sell it right away? Okay. When we said, and don't leave it for the Biuda, he means you don't need to leave it till the next holiday because you can sell it immediately. All right, very interesting. And now the last Mishnah for today, Misha Avad Haregel Ma'avirin al Taharata Azara. Once the Yom Tov is finished, once the holiday is finished, then the Kohanim will pass through the entire courtyard of the Bet HaMikdash and purify everything. We make a play on words of Misha Avad and Ma'avirin. The holiday passed by, and now the Kohanim also passed through. So, in other words, this is similar to what we just said. Even though on the Chag itself, we assume everyone's tahor, everything's tahor, because we must celebrate as planned. But the second it's over, we suspect that there might have been some people, right, of all the many tens of thousands of people that came, there might have been even one or two who were actually tameh and touched things around and brought tumah to the Bet HaMikdash. And therefore, we have to do a thorough cleansing, right? This is not a pre-Pesach, but a post-Pesach cleansing was even more important than the pre-Pesach cleansing. Okay, Avad HaRegel Yom Shishi lo hayu ma'avirin. However, if the last day of Yom Tov was on Thursday, and so Thursday night, Yom Shishi, that's not enough. Only one day, Yom Shishi, they not enough time to cleanse everything and prepare for Shabbat. So in that case, they would continue to use everything in the Bet HaMikdash in the same status of presumed tahara until after Shabbat. And then on Sunday, then they would cleanse everything. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, af lo b'yom chamishi, she'en hakohanim penuyin. Rabbi Yehuda extends this and says, even if the last day of Yom Tov was on Wednesday, and then you have Yom Chamishi and Yom Shishi, Thursday and Friday to cleanse the Bet HaMikdash, that's also not enough time to cleanse everything. And so in that case also, we would extend and say, oh, it was Tahor, everybody was around, even though it's not the holiday anymore, we don't have a chance to clean it now. So we got to presume it's Tahor. But on Sunday, then they will go back. The reality sets in and said there were probably tameh people around, and we have to go ahead and cleanse everything. Tana shena kohanim penuyim elotzi badeshin. Explaining this last line, what are they so busy with? They need 2 days because of the deshin, the ashes. So many people bring korbanot on the holiday, not only korbanot that are for the holiday, any korbanot that they promised all year round that they had to give, a chatat, todah, they're bringing them on the holiday while they come to the Bet HaMikdash. And because of all that burning, there's such a big pile of ashes on the Mizbeach that it takes more than a day to clean it off. And that's why they need so much time. I think what you see in these Mishnot, in this discussion, is the tension that's always between an ideal and practical, right? Ideally, we want to keep everything to the highest level, but we also have to make practical concessions because otherwise we won't be able to ever have Kodashim, ever have pottery, ever have all Bnei Israel come to one place and actually celebrate. And so it's really interesting to see how the rabbis deal with this tension for the maximum balance of each. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.